So now I'll turn to introducing Clarence Lang, the Susan Welch Dean of the College of the Liberal Arts. Dean Lang joined Penn State from the University of Kansas, maybe better known, at least in Kansas, as KU. And there he was the Dean's Professor of Liberal Arts and Sciences in the departments of African and African American Studies and American Studies. And he was also served as the interim dean of the College of Liberal Arts and Sciences. At Kansas, he had previously served tenures as chair of the Department of African American Studies, interim director of the Hall Center for the Humanities, acting director of Graduate Studies and American Studies, co-chair of the university's Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Advisory Group, president of the Black Faculty and Staff Council, and senior administrative fellow in the office of the provost. When I read that, I think he must be 70 years old, but believe me, he's not. He's much younger than I am, but as you can tell, he was a very busy man at the University of Kansas. Dean Lang has extensive experience as an administrator, as a faculty member, and as a student at land-grant universities. Prior to his time at the University of Kansas, Dean Lang was a graduate student and then a faculty member at the University of Illinois in Urbana-Champaign. And as an undergraduate student, he went to the University of Missouri, even though he's from the great city of Chicago, Illinois. I need to get this story of how somebody from Chicago ends up in Columbia, Missouri. I don't know. I'm sure there's a good story there. Dean Lang is a great advocate for the importance of liberal arts in the 21st century. We are delighted that he joined Penn State on July 1st of this year to be the new dean of the College of the Liberal Arts at Penn State. Please join me in welcoming Dean Lang.
Can you hear me? Is this on? Okay, all right, good. So did I look like I was lurking kind of in? I didn't know where to put myself while he was introducing me. So good afternoon. It's good to see you all, and it's really beautiful and lovely outside. So I'm glad that you made the decision, however that occurred, to come here and spend some time with me. Show of hands, how many of you are first-year students? Okay, all right. Hands down. How many of you are from out of state? Okay, all right, okay, all right. Last question. I promise not to do this. I don't see students a whole lot, so sometimes I go into this mode. How many of you come here from one of the Commonwealth campuses? Okay, all right, good. Raise those hands high. That's good. All right, okay, excellent. All right. So, no, but seriously, it's good to see all of you. I hope that, particularly for those of you who are first year, but even if you're not, that the first week of classes went well. You all are still looking bright-eyed and bushy-tailed. You doing okay? You doing all right? Okay, so far? All right, okay. I can remember long time ago going away to school. And in some ways, I have that feeling right now because, like many of you in this room, I'm new. And so the whole experience of picking up, moving to some place that's maybe not familiar, having to make new friends, in my case, changing regions, there's a lot that goes into that. And I'm probably eating better than you all. I remember when I first went away to school, and there was nobody to tell me to eat my vegetables. My diet was McDonald's and Domino's, and that didn't end well. Let's put it that way. So I learned why you need to have a square meal. So I hope that you all are making better decisions diet-wise than I did when I first went away. I've got a couple of notes here. I'm going to try not to, I'm not going to stand here and read to you. But I did take some time to just kind of jot down some ideas so that you all have some sense of what's on my mind and who I am. And it was said that I'm going to speak for about 45 minutes. I don't know that I will speak entirely that long. I might pitch it more around 30 minutes. We'll see, maybe a little less. And then what I'd like to do is just open the floor and hear from you all any questions that you might have about me or any comments that you want to make about things that are on your mind or that you're thinking about. And one of the reasons why I'm doing that, let me say at the outset, is that in a position like this, even though the undergraduate students are the most important part of your job, why you have your job, you actually end up spending the least amount of time with undergraduate students. So that's been one of the difficult things about doing work at this level, is that you don't really see students. You see graduate students, you see plenty of faculty, sometimes more than you want to, right? You see staff, because the staff are important, because they're the ones who run the university, right? Remember that. You don't see students, because you're not in the classroom, and unless there's an emergency, you really are not having contact with them. So I want to sort of make sure that I take the opportunity while you all are here, and there's a good enough group of you, to hear from you about questions you may have about me or the work that I do, but also commentary or observations about your time here at Penn State thus far. Sounds like a plan? Is that good? Okay, and then afterwards we've got some refreshments. So if you hang out long enough, there's a payoff at the end. All right, so you get fed. All right. I'm from Chicago, and I'm going somewhere with this. And I'm proud to say that I'm a first generation student. You know what I mean by that? I'm the first person in my family to get a BA, an MA, a doctorate. I went to Mizzou, where I studied journalism. That's why I went there, right? And the main reason, and I was silly. Maybe you all are better than me. A lot of my friends were going to the University of Illinois. I could have gone there, but I wanted to go someplace different. And I was interested in Mizzou because it has the nation's oldest journalism school. So I got sucked into that. But I had it was a great experience, so I'm not complaining about that. I studied journalism. I minored in Black Studies. I ended up earning my doctorate in history. My area of specialization, and every faculty member is a specialist of some sort, right? So even though my degree is in history, that tells you a little bit about me. That doesn't tell you everything, right? So my field, my primary area of interest is African American history with an emphasis on social movements. That's what I do, right? And my path here was not necessarily a straight one, but I'm really honored and I feel privileged to be here. Well, let me make sure that I also add my thanks to the Liberal Arts Undergraduate Council, Kathy, others of you who made this event possible. So that's a little bit of background about me. Let me tell you a little bit about what I've been doing since I began this position on July 1st. And I mentioned July 1st, so I've not been in this role for very long, but there's been an eventful period of time, a lot of interesting things that are happening. As someone who's new, who has to learn the lay of the land, I've been spending time with faculty. I've been spending time with department heads. These are the individuals who lead the departments where you take the courses that you're taking. I've spent time with staff. I've spent time with fellow deans. So you all do know that I'm one of several deans on this campus. So there's a dean of agriculture, business, law, right? What have you, spending time with them, spending time with chancellors at the Commonwealth institutions in this state. And one of the things that I think is really magnificent about Penn State, one of the things that attracted me is the fact that you have these over 20 campuses throughout the state, right? Abington, I met a couple of people who came here from one of those institutions. And what I like about it is whether you come from Abington or Du Bois, Harrisburg, Altoona, at the end of the day, your Penn State degree will say simply that, Penn State. So there's not a stratification in terms of the value, right? If you go to Penn State, you go to Penn State, whether you're at University Park, which is where we are, or whether you're elsewhere. So from the standpoint of making the university accessible to many different kinds of people from different backgrounds and walks of life, this is actually a really important part of this institution that you've chosen to be part of. So I've been spending time with a number of the constituents of the college, and by extension, Penn State, the university, more generally. But again, as I said, this is really the first opportunity, aside from chance encounters thereabout, that I've had the opportunity to actually have a captive audience of undergraduates. How many of you, I expect, everyone went to, was it convocation? You went? Okay. In fact, I see at least one person. Oh, I thought it was one of the T-shirts. Is it a T-shirt from? Yay. Wonderful. Okay, good. All right. Great event. So I've had those kind of experiences, but not anything like this. So I want to talk to you a little bit about what I do. And I'm going to try not to sound too much like a school teacher, but I want you all to work with me because I want to make sure I'm not making presumptions. So I'm going to ask you a question, right? And I know you're saying, it's 3 o'clock. You're supposed to be talking. Why are you asking us questions? But I'm going to take the prerogative to do that. Do you all know what a dean does? What is a dean? You've come to meet the new dean. And I thank you for doing that, right? But what is a dean? Or what does a dean do? Yeah, you. Okay, all right, very good. What's your name? Okay, you get an A. All right. I saw a hand behind him. Ryan, is that your name? Yeah. Yeah, go ahead. I'm going to ask you to project. Say that again. Okay. Oversee the faculty in the college, right? Staff. Anybody else want to add to that? Those are both good answers, right? So in essence, I'm going to simplify, but in essence, a dean is academic leader, chief administrator of a set of departments or units, academic units that fall under the umbrella of a college, right? So oversee faculty, thank you, staff, right? And the students who are all part of the college as majors, as faculty, employees, what have you. All right? So that's what a dean is. It's kind of, think about it as like it's the principal of a school in a district, right? So in that sense, but at a larger level, right? Do you all know what a provost is? You all know who your provost is? It's good to know how the university functions. So the provost is the person who is responsible for, is the chief academic leader, administrator of the campus, right? And so your provost is a gentleman by the name of Nicholas Jones. Just FYI for you, okay? All right? I report to him, okay? Because we all have a boss, right? Someplace. All right, so I'm the dean of the College of the Liberal Arts here at Penn State. Let me ask you another question, and I promise I will make some comments rather than just ask you questions, right? When you hear the term the liberal arts, what does that mean to you? Or what comes to mind? So we've established that I'm a dean and what that is, right? A person who runs a college, as Ryan and others alluded to, right? In this case, the College of the Liberal Arts. What is that? Someone says the liberal arts. What does that mean to you? And I'm not asking, because you're supposed to know this. This is just part of me not making presumptions and in introducing myself, giving you a clear, visible, legible sense of what does it mean to do the work that I do. And I hope to make the point why the liberal arts are important. Anybody want to take a stab? And maybe we might start with just, yeah, what's your name? Gwen, yes.
When I think of the liberal arts, I think of like a well-rounded education, so not something that's like, it's not always narrow, it kind of branches out to other.
Okay, something that's well-rounded, that has many branches. Very good. An example of that might be what? Or examples? Or can we think of something that might fall under? We're going to go back to Ryan. Yeah.
Well, I'm an English major.
Okay.
I like taking science courses.
Very good. Okay. All right. But you're one of our majors, right? Okay, you're going to be. All right. Okay, we'll make sure of that. Okay. All right. That's my task. So no, but that's a very, very good point, right? So we have a discipline, English. What else might fall under the liberal arts if we think concretely? Yeah.
I would say all of the humanities and social sciences.
Humanities and social sciences, right? history, sociology, anthropology. We can go down a line. Make sense, right? Okay. And so let me make the case for you, or make the comment, why do the liberal arts matter? Why does it matter that we're here talking about the liberal arts? Why is it such an honor and a privilege to be the dean of the College of the Liberal Arts at Penn State? Why do the liberal arts matter? I am going to make the argument, or I will make the argument, I do make the argument, that the liberal arts is a core, I'm going to go all the way out. The core, right, element of any university because of the work that we do, right? So at a broad level, my task as it relates to you all is to help prepare you for meaningful lives, right, and directions, mobility, right? Part of why you all go to school, I presume, you all, I'm sure, are interested in knowledge for the sake of knowledge, and that's good. But you're also here, I suspect, probably accurately, because you understand that being in this space and at a minimum getting the BA provides you opportunities, right? It allows you to what? Choose pathways in terms of careers, occupations, livelihoods, rather than having those chosen for you. Am I right? Is that an accurate assessment? Have some control over your lives. So that is an important part of, is that me making that noise or is that something else? Is that me? Do I need to switch to the hand mic or am I good? What do y'all think? Okay, all right. I'll ride this out maybe for a moment. We'll see what happens. So that's one thing. But I also want to make the point to you that the liberal arts is not just simply about how we prepare you for careers, as important as that is, and I want to come back to that. And Gwen was making this point a moment ago. The liberal arts is also important to producing people, individuals who can think critically, who can communicate about, understand, think about, engage the complexity and diversity of the human experience. So whether we're talking about sociology, the study of society, history, the study of the past, right? And its impact on the present, whether we talk about anthropology, the study of cultures, how those have existed across time, right? Our goal is also to expose you to the diversity and complexity of human experience, imagination, belief systems, relationships, right? Does that sound legible? Does that make sense, right? But at the same time, to move it even beyond that, our goal is to help you become critical thinkers, ethical decision makers, right? Responsible citizens, if I can use that word, and I understand citizenship to be something broad, not narrow, right? Decision makers, problem solvers, right? Curious human beings. I would say global citizens, right? Well-rounded human beings. Now you might say, okay, that's really blue sky, that's out there, or what have you. And maybe you're right. But it also has some practical applications back to this notion of career progression, having opportunities to decide what happens to you in terms of your livelihoods and careers. What do I mean by that? I've been in academia for a long time. And in that time, I've written letters of recommendations for students, much like yourselves, who are either going into professions, right, into the job force, the workforce, or even into graduate school. And the one question that I always get from people who are either going to interview someone for a position of some sort or a graduate program, the questions they always ask, tell me how this person expresses themselves in writing and verbally. Is this someone who is curious? Is this someone who can think critically? Is this someone who can take complicated ideas and simplify them, right? Is this someone who can think three-dimensionally? Is this someone who can problem solve? Is this someone who can work in teams and not just individually? Is this someone who can get along with, work with people who are unlike themselves, right? Without fail. And these are all the things, I argue, that the liberal arts help us to do. These are the skills that they provide you. So that you are prepared, my argument, and of course I'm biased, but I think I'm righteously biased, right? That you're prepared to take on any kind of career. Not only that, but we're also interested in how we help you to not just prepare for careers, but also to create your own pathways. What do I mean by this? A couple of things. So one, I don't have numbers, right? I can get those numbers for you, but you all are resourceful. You can look this up yourself. If you think, for example, about Silicon Valley, the dot-com boom or what have you, many of those firms were not created by individuals who had business degrees. Rather, they were created by individuals who came out of the liberal arts, who came out of the humanities, right? I'm going to go even further for you all. More so than has been the case for me. Here's the other point that I was going to make. Many of you, and I've come across a number of you who feel this way, many of you are going to end up creating your own employment opportunities. And so the days when someone just simply gave you a job, is this making sense to you all? Right? That's not, the 21st century is moving in a very different set of directions. And the point that I'm making is not to sort of say, oh my goodness, life is going to be hard. How are we going to survive in this new environment? The point that I'm making, to the contrary, is that the kinds of experiences and opportunities that you will have here in the classroom and hopefully outside the classroom, these will be things that will prepare you to not just take advantage of opportunities that exist, but also to innovate and create your own opportunities as you move forward in your lives and careers. That's what the liberal arts does in terms of helping to create certain types of skill sets. So I've tried to move from the very practical in terms of what the liberal arts does, but also kind of maybe get a little bit esoteric, but then come back to how this all, in a sense, how would I put it, comes full circle. That you can do two things in the liberal arts, right? You can learn about the complexities of humanity, human society experience, but also in doing so, amass a set of skill sets that will serve you well for whatever you do as you move forward in the future. All right? So that's my spiel. The other point that I would make in terms of why the liberal arts matter, how are we doing? Or were you about to? Okay. All right. Okay. All right. I'll do that. Talk to you a little bit about my priorities in this role as dean in terms of some things that are in my mind. I don't know that this is necessarily a strategic vision, and I'm interested, again, in hearing from you in terms of what your thoughts are. But one thing that I'm really interested in as I move from kind of the general points that I've made to sort of thinking about what are some practical things that college can do is really working on this notion of career readiness. And by that, what I mean is I am intensely interested in making sure, or doing my part to make sure, that you all have research experiences, whether those are domestically, whether that's study abroad. I'm interested in you all having internship opportunities. I'm interested in you all having opportunities to connect with alumni who I didn't mention earlier, but are really important to the work that the college does. I'm interested in you all exploring, for example, the languages. How many of you speak more than one language here? Okay, excellent. Okay. Are you aware of the fact, and I say this as someone who, I'm passable in terms of speaking and writing in Spanish, but increasingly, the expectation will be that you speak not just the language that you speak at home, but maybe 2 other additional languages, right? If we think about how the globe is shrinking and the kind of competencies that we need to not just be in the workforce, but just to be, to coexist, right? In a way that's productive and healthy. The college offers those. And so I urge you all to think, for example, about the languages. It's not just a requirement that you get out of the way, but it's something that can be very central to the kind of things that you want to do with your lives and careers as you move forward. So don't take the languages for granted. I'm a big advocate for that. So I'm interested in you all having those kinds of opportunities as well. The other point that I would make, and this is where I want to make sure that I don't miss this part. Part of what makes a college like ours significant, which is why it's so large, is that we touch virtually every student, right? We're one of the biggest colleges because whether you ultimately end up majoring in the field in the liberal arts or not, I guarantee you, many of your classes will take you through the college. That's how central we are to the core missions of this particular university, right? But I want to take this a little further as well, because I've talked a lot about sort of your individual opportunities and the possibilities for your individual futures. But as someone who comes out of the liberal arts myself, I also want to emphasize the point that we don't exist simply as individuals. And by that I mean is that we occupy a society, right? And so I'm enough of an idealist that I believe that the liberal arts, among other things, if we listen to them, if we pay attention to them, help us to foster and develop our capacities for collective empathy and care for others, right? I'll go even further. And I'm not going in a partisan direction, but I'm speaking about facts. In the sense that whatever particular political persuasion you align with, we can all agree that the level of discourse in this nation has declined, correct? We're in a very tough spot. But yet, as a society, we have a number of big problems that we have to solve, right? And historically, and I would say that there's the potential currently for the liberal arts, for the humanities, to help us to find ways to talk in complicated ways about complicated subjects, right? And for us to think about how we can find a way collectively to solve big problems, right, through big solutions, right? And this speaks to my interests. One of the things that I really want to work on in my tenure here as Dean of the College, in terms of how, as a part of that, as part of doing that, how we create a more equitable and inclusive work and learning environment at this university, right? My colleague, Richard Page, a moment ago made a point about how my career has been spent at land-grant universities. Penn State is a land-grant university. And what that means, among other things, right? This is how you get ice cream here, because there's an ag program, right, or what have you, right? Or engineering is a very major part of the university. That goes back to the history of how these universities were founded. But at root, there's a notion that the university also has a public mission, right, as well, right? And that has an impact on how we should approach or how you should approach your education, and certainly is in terms of how I think about my particular duties. That is to prepare you all for your lives and careers, but is also to engage in collective thinking about how we make our society more democratic. All right. Those are my broad points that I wanted to share with you about things on my mind. I apologize if it was a little scattered. I could have just read my notes to you, I preferred not to do that and to talk a little bit more organically. But I would say, as a way of, in some ways, coming full circle, coming back to the broad points that I want to make. Well, one, and I don't know if I've said this yet, but I consider it a great privilege and honor to be at Penn State, to be in this particular role. I want to say to you all, before we open this up for questions and comments, that it's wonderful to see all of you here. You all matter. I take seriously the task of doing my part to help shepherd you to the futures that you've come here to pursue.